Hello and good morning. If I can give you one piece of advice today, it would be to avoid the newspapers if you're about to start preparing the Sunday roast. And whatever it is, cook it well, because horse meat is in your headlines this morning as well as your hot meals. The Labour leader is with me now. Welcome to the show. You won't tell us what benefits you'll cut. You won't tell us what taxes you'll increase. You won't tell us how you're going to cut the deficit. Isn't this lack of detail one of those reasons why many people look at Labour and they say, yeah, effective opposition, but not quite made the leap yet to being a genuine, credible alternative?
I don't agree with that at all.
The man responsible for the Health Authority for Mid Staffordshire, Sir David Nicholson, is now in charge of the NHS. Why is he still in his post?
Well, Robert Francis said that to find a scapegoat
forgive me.
You're not letting me answer.
A scapegoat takes the sins of others. We're talking about people who were responsible taking responsibility for what they did.
But David Nicholson didn't run the hospital.
This week you gave a speech suggesting that 17-year-old girls should read Middlemarch and not Twilight.
Yes.
What right do you, as Secretary of State, have to tell people what to read?
I have every right, I think.
Let's go to Westminster. Our Deputy Political Editor, James Landale, is there.
What I've been told is that Eric Pickles, the Communities and Local Government Secretary, is willing to accept, in principle, a 10% cut to the amount of money that local government gets from central government. What I've learned is that the Defence Secretary, Philip Hammond, has written a letter to all Conservative MPs essentially saying that these Tory rebels threaten, and I quote, serious damage to Britain's reserve forces.
James, tell us what you're hearing.
Well, the situation is this. A Gurkha veteran is starving himself to death outside Downing Street. He's protesting at what he sees as his unfair pension rights. Leaked documents, which I've obtained, of a note of a meeting between the Minister in charge, Francis Maude, at the Cabinet Office, and the CBI, the business organisation, reveals that actually the government now is scaling back its plans for private sector involvement. Now, the government had expected to make this main-gate decision on renewing Trident in 2014, but what I've been told is that the ministers are now actively considering postponing this decision into the next Parliament. This is not a news conference as we would naturally call it. The Americans here call it a news happening, and the reason they call it that is because basically they both stand up, they say their pieces, and then there's one question apiece, one for the British travelling delegation and then one for the Americans. So it's hardly detailed scrutiny of these great Western leaders, but a news happening, and a rare privilege for us to get a glimpse of it inside here. Normally we don't get nearly this far. Anyway, we are waiting for both of them to turn up. There they are. Let's have a listen.
Morning, everybody. Please have a seat.
James Landale from the BBC.
Prime Minister, you're talking here today about a new EU-US trade deal, and yet members of your party are now talking about leaving the European Union. What is your message to them and to those pushing for an early referendum? And if there were a referendum tomorrow, how would you vote? And Mr. President, earlier this year you told David Cameron that you wanted a strong UK in a strong EU. How concerned are you that members of David Cameron's cabinet are now openly contemplating withdrawal? But as we travelled across Helmand Province with the Defence Secretary, he was cautious, aware of just how quickly things can change.
There's no doubt that we're making progress. There's no doubt that the security situation's improving.
British commanders have told the Defence Secretary and me in loads of briefings today that they are confident they are finally hitting the Taliban hard. But they also tell you of the huge amount of work that remains to be done, whether it is training the Afghan security forces or persuading people in regions like this that they'll be okay once these forces go home. Boris, you can't do this for another 3 years, can you?
I certainly can't try and walk around like this for another 3 years now.
Maybe, but there was no attempt to hide from the cameras today. Tories love Boris Johnson, not just because he's funny, but because he wins elections. The question is, can all this razzmatazz take him all the way to the leadership of his party? We're talking about UKIP today. How worried should the party be by it?
I think the party's most importantly focused on the future and the policies it's taking to the British people, and that's what it should focus on.
And that's enough?
Of course.
The door is now open to the public looking at Miliband in a different way, and that's your lot.
Once a bruiser, always a bruiser.
OK, it's me told.
Prime Minister, you say you want a special relationship with India, but does India want a special relationship with Britain?
Oh, I think the signs are very good.
Some of the people travelling with you are defence contractors. You're here in part to promote defence sales. How do you avoid getting caught out and some of these weapons being used by the wrong people at the wrong time?
Well, we do have very strict controls in Britain and a very strict licensing system.
You have to show that you can hold on to seats like this in the south of England. If you cannot, your prospects for the elections are pretty poor.
I'm very confident that we will hold on to this seat.
UKIP claim that with their opposition to Europe, immigration and wind farms, they're taking votes not just from the Conservatives, but from Labour and the Lib Dems as well. They used to call you fruitcakes.
Yeah, well, they're not laughing at us anymore, are they?
Nigel, you're causing mischief, aren't you?
I'm here to have a proper debate. I mean, you know...
You're teasing the Conservative Party.
I tell you what, this organisation, the Bruges Group that I'm here with today, they've invited me, and being a polite chap, I've accepted.
But for others, a bigger Heathrow would lead to happy days.
Richmond is a lovely place. I watch the planes go every day. I hear nothing.
You're relaxed?
I am.
Hello, visitors, and welcome to the United Kingdom. I hope this short educational film will help introduce you to our way of life when you immigrate from here and here all the way to here. No, there was a huge amount of controversy. Here he comes, walking up. I'll just get out of shot so that you can see him. Therefore, trying not to keep the smile off his face. Peter Mandelson, very controversial figure.
Hello.
Third time lucky, Mr. Mandelson. The comeback kid.
Quite enough from you, James. Thank you very much.